Is now a good time to buy in a Phoenix 55 plus community, or should you wait? Today, we are going to be breaking down a market update for a couple of different areas in the Phoenix Northwest Valley so that you can make an informed decision on if right now is a good time to make your retirement move or buy in a Phoenix 55 plus community. So we're going to be talking about Sun City, Sun City West, the Grand in Surprise, Arizona, and Sun City Festival in North Buckeye, Arizona, giving you an overview of the market conditions currently, what that means for you as a potential home buyer, either relocating to a 55 plus community here in Phoenix or moving from renting to buying, what that looks like. And we are going to get into it starting with Sun City, Arizona.
Okay, let's start with Sun City. So this is the beginning of October 2025, and we're going to go through kind of some of this information here and explain it to you. The amount of homes available right now is a little bit lower than we had seen previously. There's a little over 200 single family homes for sale right now in Sun City, Arizona, but don't be alarmed. We're just coming into our busy season for 55 plus, which is typically October through May. So as soon as the weather cools down here, our snowbirds come back. And we typically see more inventory become available, which is a great thing. We always want to have more options for our buyers. And then the median list price right now is $334,900. You can see that right here on this top section. And then if you guys want this information sent to you, you can let us know and we're happy to email this report over to you. And you can see the price per square foot right now is about $207. Now that's going to be the average. Obviously, larger homes and smaller homes are going to differ a little bit. The average days on market right now is about 89. And that's pretty typical for what we've been seeing. It's, during the hotter months, it takes a lot longer to sell because there's a smaller buyer pool available. The median days on market's about 63. And this is very interesting. If you're kind of wondering where the market's going, what we're seeing, 47% of homes have a price decrease. And we have been seeing a lot of price compression in Sun City over the summer for sure. A lot of homes sitting on the market a lot longer, depending on condition and things like that. So if you have a home that has updated systems and it's priced really well, it's going to go very, very quickly. If your home maybe needs a little bit of work or you're overpriced, we're going to see that home sitting on the market and multiple price reductions before that home actually sells. You can see we've only had one with a price increase. And the sitting inventory right now is 279. That's down from, it was 311, but that still is a lot. That's a lot of homes to choose from. 279, depending on your price point, and kind of what you're looking for, whether you want a larger home, whether you want 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, but that's a good amount of inventory to choose from. And the market action index, think of that kind of as like the speedometer, and what the market is doing. You can see that it's pretty similar to where it was last month. We're at 38. 30 is considered a balanced market. So they're saying that's a slight seller's advantage. And I would say that that's pretty typical of what we're seeing. There is a very, very slight advantage if your home is priced very, very well and it is in market ready condition. Like it doesn't need anything, it doesn't need any systems, and it's got fresh paint and all of those things. So we're seeing those homes go really, really quickly. And I'm just going to show you guys a little bit here. These are the different segments of the market. So obviously that dark blue is going to be your larger homes. The red is going to be your smallest homes. And you can see that it's pretty much the same, depending on whether you're looking for maybe you're looking for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, or maybe, you entertain a lot and you want a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,500 square foot home. The trend lines are all pretty much the same. It's been pretty even. We're seeing a little bit of that decrease here, especially in that lower price point since March. But again, we're in the hot season. So as we start to cool off, expect to see those prices maybe come up just a little bit. So Here you can see price per square foot is again dropping. So that's pretty much what's going on in the market in Sun City. We've seen a lot of buyers making moves, a lot of great deals to be had right now in Sun City.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, like, Shauna was saying, with recent buyers that we've been working with is that doing a lot of showings, and there's a lot on the market that does need work, or it's maybe really outdated, or maybe it's really outdated and also the systems have not been done in 10 to 20 years. And those homes are definitely the ones that are sitting that, week after week, they're still on the market, especially because it seems like a lot of people are starting priced higher, hoping that maybe somebody will come in lower, or there'll be some negotiation room, but instead the house is sitting. Whereas the homes where they are upgraded and the systems have been done, and you're talking about a turnkey home that needs minimal work. Of course, everybody may want to do certain things for, style and design purposes, but that can be done over time, right? Those are the ones where it's actually like, oh, okay, now maybe you're actually competing against another buyer, or maybe there's one or two other offers or really interested buyers that you're looking at. So there's a lot of room, I think, for negotiation on the properties that maybe need some work or systems to be done because they're sitting and, the days on market is adding up. But the homes that are in that really turnkey condition, you know, and have upgrades or systems done, you're more likely to face multiple offers. And I think as we go into, October, November, and the next couple of months with the busy season, that competition will continue to increase with the larger buyer pool of snowbirds and seasonal buyers coming in. Now that our temperatures are starting to decline, the market activity increases when that, we kind of have market activity goes opposite of the weather here for these
Yes.
55 plus communities.
Yeah, yeah. And keep in mind too, depending on what your budget is, some of those systems, that's a pretty significant investment that you may be looking at. If a home has an air conditioner that maybe is, 15, 20 years old, and this is what we're seeing with some of these homes. We may see homes that have been flipped or renovated, upgraded. They've made them look pretty. They put pretty tile in. They made it have new cabinets, new paint, but they're maybe not updating those systems. A new air conditioner is going to run you, if you've got one unit, $8,000 to $10,000, and let's say you've got an end of life roof. You're looking at 15 to 17,000 or more. So those can be some pretty significant, a significant investment that you have to make. So that's why we're seeing those homes sit on the market. If they're priced the same as the other homes that have those updates or don't need those systems updated, those are the ones that are going to go first. And that's kind of a lot of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah. I will say that I think it looks, based on the numbers and what we've seen over the last few years, that right now, if you're thinking about potentially buying, right now looks to be a really good opportunity to get some of the best prices we've had in years and years in terms of overall purchase. Of course, you have to find the right home in the right community, right? We really believe that like that's going to come when the timing is right. But if you've been maybe waiting, looking at, like the list price per square foot, it's the lowest right now as of October 3rd, 2025, that it's been in quite some time here in Sun City. So there's opportunity there if pricing has been something that, has been very much on your mind, that maybe right now would be a good time to look and get in while these prices are quite lower than they have been in quite a few years.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now is the time to get the best price that we've seen in at least 2 years.
Yeah. If not more, as prices had gone up. Should we head into Sun City West now?
Yep, let's go
Okay.
into Sun City West. And I'll need just a second to pull that up here. Okay, so Sun City West is similarly situated to Sun City. So for October 3rd, 2025, for Sun City West, if you look at the speedometer, which I love because I'm such a visual person and you can just quickly glance at it and get an idea of what's going on. So it's a little bit less of a seller's advantage this month than it was last month. Very, very slight though. So inventory is down a little bit at 211. So there's a little bit less to choose from in Sun City West right now. Our median list price is sitting right under 400,000 at 399. And you can see the median price of new listings is just under 350 at 349,999. And I suspect that the reason for this is we have seen longer days on market and more homes sitting, and sellers just aren't able to get those prices that they thought they were going to get maybe at the beginning of the year, or maybe they were thinking about selling their home last year, or maybe they've been preparing their home for sale for a couple of months. And we're seeing those homes that are priced at the top just kind of sit. So I do think that we're starting to see homes prices start at a more reasonable place. Now, remember, this is median. So half of the homes are going to be priced above this and half of them are going to be priced below this. But for Sun City West and for a single family home, given all the other benefits of Sun City West, this is a really great median home price that's starting. So we love to see that. The price per square foot is at 229. Average days on market's a little bit longer in Sun City West at 109. And the median days on market is 70. So like we said before with Sun City, those homes that are turnkey ready, updated systems, priced really well, they're not on the market very long at all. And again, you can see a pretty significant price decrease. We've got 42% of all listings out there have a price decrease. And you can see in June, it was 58. So this has gone down. And I do think that sellers and maybe agents are getting a little bit smarter and they're saying, okay, let's not list price the home as high as maybe we wanted to, because we're just seeing a lot longer days on market in that case. So again, 1% price increase, 3% of them were relisted. The median rent's 2,000 and the market action index is 37. And if you look at the different market segments, so if you guys want this chart, we are happy to send this information over to you. It's been pretty steady. We've had a slight decrease here, and then here we start 2025 is about right here. So it was kind of steady, and we're starting to see a little bit of decrease. But as we move into our busy season and our 55 plus buying season, we anticipate that this might start to go back up just a little bit. But the same situation with Sun City West as Sun City. If you guys have been waiting for maybe the market or better pricing, we really feel like now is the time for you to get a better deal, for us to negotiate. There's a lot more room for negotiation in a market like this, and I think that especially if you want a more expensive home, a home with a pool, we do have some clients that is, they want a larger home, they want a home with a pool, they want a 3-bedroom. We have seen some pretty significant price decreases in that specific segment of the market. When before, if you wanted an updated home that was maybe 2,000 square feet or more and it has a pool, you were looking at 575 to maybe 625. And we're starting to see some of those down in the 550 and even under 550. So it is really a good time to think about making your move to Sun City West.
Yeah, I think it's good to see how steady it's been, because I feel like when we've been out at showings looking at homes, we've kind of seen that where it's like new homes will hit the market, but they're priced around, they may not be moving as quickly, but the price, like the list pricing is still around where it's been, the last 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah.
And of course, we know there will be, more competition, which is more buyers coming into the market, which will be better for sellers. But it's good to know like it hasn't been increasing a whole lot. And so maybe with a little bit more competition, during the busy season, you might see this go up a little bit. But I think looking at the data, holding steady right now,
Yeah,
that's a good thing that you're not having any kind of drastic up or down. I think for buyers
yes,
to be like, okay, what can I expect if I'm going to be looking in Sun City or in Sun City West to make a move, over the next couple of months. So I think that as a buyer is good news to see that versus maybe like the drastic, price increases that we were
yeah,
seeing a couple of years ago, or where all of a sudden it dropped and it's like, okay, is it going to drop more? Well, right now, everything is holding steady. And even that last year hasn't
yeah.
been any fluctuations that were drastic one way or the other.
Yeah, and that is really good news for you as a buyer because it makes the buying situation is a lot easier. You know a lot more what to expect. There's, you're not going in saying, oh, what am I going to have to give up? And there's a lot more room for us. And like, let's say you have a certain budget, right? And we're going to go look at those homes in your budget, and it's going to become pretty clear to you as a buyer, okay, we have, maybe 3 homes in your budget that need systems. And then maybe we have 2 homes in your budget that, maybe only one of the systems. And then you may have 1 or 2 of those homes that are priced a little bit higher, or maybe just a little bit outside your budget, but they've been on the market for a really long time and they're not moving. And that may be an opportunity for us to negotiate on that house for you. So
Yeah,
it's it is good for a buyer to have that kind of steady market, and it's a lot easier to navigate that.
for sure. Okay, let's head into the grand in surprise. Now, one thing that I do want to say before we do that is that if we are not able to do every single 55 plus community, there's some other bigger ones, in Goodyear and even in the south part of Buckeye, in Peoria even, but we wanted to touch on just a couple. And then if you want a specific community, or maybe you want a couple of communities that you're comparing, you can reach out to us via I'll put our contact information in the description and in the first comment. Just email us market report and then the neighborhoods or the communities that you're wanting, and we can email you a copy of what we're looking at today for those communities. That way you can compare and contrast. Otherwise, this video would be like hours and hours long and it would just be fielding through. But we just wanted to give you kind of a more general overview of the Northwest Valley based on a couple of these bigger communities out here. And then we can provide anything more specific as requested that you need for, your personal home search or any communities that you're considering relocating and retiring in. We are happy to get those reports sent over to you.
All right, on to Sun City Grand. So there are a couple things that we need to mention. So Sun City Grand, most of Sun City Grand falls into the 85374 zip code. However, part of it on the other side of the 303 falls into that 85387 zip code. And since this data is pulled by zip code, we're going to pull for most of the Grand. Now, the Grand is going to tend, all of the data for homes in the Grand or Sun City Grand are going to skew higher than the information listed here because there are other communities in that 85374 zip code that are going to bring those numbers down. There are other 55 plus communities, like Arizona Traditions is also in that 85374 zip code, and those numbers are going to fall closer to the median of this information. And then Sun Village is also in this zip code, and there's a lot more smaller condo type properties in that. There's also single family homes, but they have a lot more condos in there, a lot of lock and leave type options for buyers. So that's going to bring those prices lower. So just keep that in mind as we're going over this information. Currently, right now, there's 188 options for sale. The beginning of October 2025, 85374. Median list price is 401. And we're seeing an increase in that median list price of new listings at 422,450. Price per square foot is a little bit higher than some of the other communities at 243. Average days on market's 114 with median at 84. Again, we're seeing pretty significant price decreases at 42%, a little bit at 3% of price increases, and 6% have been relisted. A lot of times we'll see something, maybe a home was overpriced, it didn't sell for whatever reason, they hire a new agent, or maybe they hire the same agent, and then they relist it. So rent's a little bit higher in this zip code as well. And the market action index is still pretty straightforward. It's about where it's been for all these other communities at 36. It's about the same as it was last month. Now, where you'll be able to see the difference for the grand with this is probably going to be in these different segments. You're going to have a lot more higher priced homes in the grand. There are, I would say, as far as size of homes, you're probably going to be looking here in this like teal. There are some smaller condo options if you're looking at the grand and you really love that community. It's a beautiful community, but most of your homes are going to be here in this teal or this like tan color here. There are some larger homes in the grand, but your bread and butter in the grand is going to be right here. And again, this has been pretty steady. We're seeing a slight decrease, but we are going to be getting into our seasonality. And let me just show you real quick the seasonality chart for 55 plus. Now, this just kind of goes to show you where we typically see most of our transactions. And you can see when October, October through May, you have to come back over here. When it starts to get hot, we start to see that kind of decrease in transactions. So the most competitive times for 55 plus is, so we have the most closings in March and April. So we typically have about a 30-day closing. So anything that's closing in April, the contracts were probably written in March. Anything closing in March, those contracts were probably written in February. So February, March is a very, very busy time for 55 plus. But we're right here in October. It's just kind of starting to pick back up. So this is a really great time to be a buyer before all the snowbirds come back and you have more competition. And we are seeing kind of that same scenario, the same situation, a lot of room for negotiation in the grand as well for those homes, and even though the grand is a newer community, some of those homes are starting to hit that point where systems, roofs, and air conditioners are hitting the end of their life. And, for whatever situation, the owner maybe isn't able to update those. So depending on where it's priced and condition, we're seeing the same situation in the grand as we are in the other 55 plus communities with homes. If they're priced well and the systems are updated, they're ready to go. You can move in and just put your own personal touch on it, but not have to do a lot of work. We're seeing those homes go very quickly. Other homes that need work, or maybe they're dated and maybe they need systems, are just sitting on the market longer. Because when you have, let's say your budget is 450,000, you're going to have a certain number of homes available in that budget. And as a buyer, you're always going to go towards the one that you have to put the least amount of work and effort into. So those are the ones that go first, and then anything left over kind of sits. And there's two things that move a house: is price or condition. And if you can't fix the condition, you've got to lower the price, and that's what we're seeing.
So it's definitely one thing that has been really prevalent in recent clients and conversations with people who are, looking at relocating and retiring here is, they've got this focus on their budget, right? But then they get into the homes, or they're looking at homes, and it's one thing, to be like, okay, I've got these options available and this is what's within my budget. But then you're looking at spending, how do you have to spend $20,000 to upgrade a kitchen and new carpets? Or do I need to get a new roof and an AC? Because I definitely don't want my AC to be going out in July or August, right? And that's a pretty immediate need, especially with, if you've got a roof that needs to be replaced and you've got an AC that needs to be done. Those are things that typically, once they're needed, you really can't put them off that much longer, especially AC here, for summer. And the roof, for monsoon season, like we just had a huge rain. If you have a roof that has leaks, when we've got a huge monsoon storm coming in, causing further damage to your home, you can't really put that off, because then, that's going to be an issue for just your home and having to do more repairs, right? So the people that we're talking to are coming in and they're looking at these things and it's like, well, yeah, I really don't want to think about having to spend, 15, 20, $25,000 right after I just moved in, with this home also being at the top of my budget. So they'd rather be at the top of their budget and have those things already taken care of and move in, or go way lower on the budget to compensate for having to come out of pocket with so much cash right after just making this big purchase. So as a buyer, and we totally get it, because those are big considerations, especially when you're looking at your retirement budget overall. These are going to take a big chunk out of that, those reserves and that budget that you have set for yourself. Those are big considerations. So right now, when there is more flexibility and maybe these homes are sitting longer, that is probably the best time to negotiate either having some of those things done before closing by the seller, or a seller credit to cover some of that, or, where is there room to negotiate down on price? And, as a seller, if you're thinking about selling your home, just know that overwhelmingly, I think these are conversations we're having with every single 55 plus buyer, when we get into these homes, or even when they start looking online, is like, okay, well, I don't want to spend my max budget and also have to invest in redoing the house interior wise, or, to upgrade it, or having to immediately put thousands and thousands more dollars into these systems.
Yeah, and now this is the market for us to do and to negotiate for you on those things.
Yeah.
If we get into a really competitive seller's market, there's not going to be negotiation. And so if you have a lower budget, and we're very considerate of your budget, right? And the fact that, you have a certain amount of money, and we don't ever want to see somebody go into a situation where they're potentially looking at having to upgrade those systems, because you never know when they're going to go.
Yeah.
It could, if you've got an air conditioner that's end of life, it could die on you the day you move in, or it could last another 3 or 4 years. You just don't ever know. But we don't ever want to see our clients go into that situation. But that's what we're seeing in the market right now. So, and we think it's important for you guys as buyers to know that and understand kind of, some of our buyers are frustrated that they keep seeing these houses that need systems. And it really depends on your budget, but we've had this seller's market for so long that a lot of sellers, and maybe even a lot of agents, maybe they're not being realistic with the sellers and telling them like that we're no longer in that market. And we still think that there are a lot of homes that are being listed where the market was, not where the market is.
I think that's a really good point, is to know going into it as a buyer that when we've been in a seller market for so long, that it may not be that you're not finding the right house. It's just maybe you have to try a couple of times. Like, you might have to try a couple of offers before you get to a seller who is accepting of where the market actually is versus where they want it to be. I think that is a really good point, is that it does seem like a lot of sellers or agents want the market to be a certain place, and that's where they're listing, versus the reality of a buyer being able to go and have more options and be able to negotiate a deal that does really work for them, for their needs, but also their wants. Because you don't want to hate the home that you're buying and moving into, especially if you're retiring. For many of you, you're probably going to be in this home for quite some time. Like, we don't have a lot of 55 plus buyers that are coming in and being like, well, I'm just going to be in this home for like 2 or 3 years. Like, that's not usually the case for our clients that are moving into these communities. So knowing that there may be some scenarios where it's not that you're not going to find something that works for you and works for the budget and the numbers, but that you might have to find just the right seller in the right situation, who, like, sometimes sellers need to receive a couple of offers asking for similar things before they accept, okay, this is really where the market is, and I need to now lower the price, or I need to now be willing to provide a credit to replace my AC that is 21 years old and it is still 100 degrees here in Phoenix.
Yes. And that's a really good point because a lot of times maybe it's not the house, maybe it's the seller. And it's important to understand as a buyer, it's both, right? We need to find a good house for you, a good situation that meets your needs. But it's also about the seller. Do we have a good seller that is willing to work with us? So it's all about finding the right situation. And sometimes it does take a couple of times, but you always end up where you're supposed to be.
We're going to dive into Sun City Festival, which is in North Buckeye, Arizona. It's um, west of Surprise. And so we are going to show you a different report only because the zip code stretches really far north and south, and we didn't feel like it was going to give you quite an accurate view because of everything that is within that zip code. So Sun City Festival, oh, that was really fast. um, so the median home value right now is estimated to be about at 489,000. This estimates that it's down a little bit from this time last year with a median list price of 500,000. So we do know with the building that's going on out there, it is a golf course community. It's not gated, but I do consider it to be a higher going into a higher end and luxury price point with some of the homes that are out there being built in Sun City Festival. So I definitely think that it's going to skew higher when you're typically looking at even Buckeye or some of the other 55 plus communities. They have some very high priced homes that are starting, 800,000 to build. And that's just base price, doesn't even include lots, structural, and your design upgrades. So just know that they do have some lower priced homes and some entry level price points as well, which we're going to show some of that. So list price, up from last month is 1.9%. One thing that I will say here is that overall, I don't think that this is including any of the homes that are listed by the builder that are not in the MLS, because they have a lot of homes that are available to be built or that are partially built that are for sale, but they are not in the MLS. They just, if we're taking our buyers there, we're working with them, we're bringing them there, but we're not showing them, necessarily all the inventory that's on the MLS, because some of it is just not there yet until, they've got it finished and now they want to put it on the MLS. Okay, so let's go into the market trends overall. So Sun City Festival is in a seller's market. With that being said, they're not selling for 100% of list price for homes. So there is some negotiation room, it looks like. But we've been talking a lot about homes that need to be upgraded or upgraded systems being needed in these homes. And for Sun City Festival, that's not really the case for most of these homes because it is such a new community. It's only a couple of years old, really, when you look at, the average age of these homes. And with a lot of the inventory being, within just the last couple of years, you're not really having to face that. So I also think that's why these home values are the way that they are and the percentages are looking this way, is because not only are they new and they look nice, but they all have very new systems as well. And so I think buyers in today's market are seeing that combination as a better value, especially when you've got, a brand new golf course and brand new community facilities and 16 pickleball courts, right? I think with it being new, they are very in tune with what buyers are wanting right now, especially for 55 plus. And it is a Del Webb community, and I think that they know what they're doing when it comes to this 55 plus active adult community. They are like the original people for Sun City. So I think that's why the home values and these percentages are trending a little bit differently than what we've seen Sun City West, and even in the Grand, because these homes are 10, 15, 20 years older than the Grand, which, it's not a lot newer, but comparing systems and even design, it does make a big difference. So if you look at this is just a chart comparing like the number of homes that were sold in the last month in different price ranges. So you have a lot that sold over 600,000. So that is interesting looking at this graph that you have, a big portion of the homes sold between 550 to over 600, and then the other biggest portion between 350 or between 300 and 400. So it looks like you've got a lot of interest in that entry level price point in the neighborhood, and then again on that higher end. And we've been over there. We really like Sun City Festival, and they do have some really beautiful homes in that higher
Gorgeous.
price point. And they're also very large and they're
Yeah,
big homes. And so for
yeah,
somebody who is looking for 55 plus, but they don't really want to downsize like that much, this seems to be just a little bit of a trend of what we've seen of like we're retiring and downsizing, but like downsizing a little bit, like a couple hundred to like 500 square feet, right? Those are the homes that it seemed to be really popular at least in the last month.
yeah.
And then you can see the price per square foot, 18 homes sold between 250 to 300, and then 19 sold between 200 to 250. So you're looking at probably between 200 to 300. I would guess that a lot of that is going to have to do with the size of the home too, because you see typically those smaller homes are going to have a higher price per square foot, and then it goes down a little bit, ratio wise as you get to the bigger homes, but then also the upgrades, because some of these homes that are in the higher price points are heavily designed and upgraded as well. And so that's going to factor in. And with some of them having pools and things like that, not that pools add a lot, but if you've got a brand new pool, or even if the builder is willing to put in a pool for you, and that makes a difference too when it comes to the price per square foot. So a lot of different factors there, but design would be probably the biggest factor, I think, in that range. And then, of course, just like the base of the size of the home that you're in. Something just interesting that it is noted here is that you have a 45% population growth increase since 2020. That's just because this is a new community. That's not typical, but you can see like Buckeye itself has grown a lot since 2020. It's been like one of the fastest growing cities in America. This specific community is mostly all new homes in this time. So that's why. And then the median age is 68. That's interesting to know because sometimes we get asked like, hey, what's the average age in these 55 plus communities? And we don't always have the exact number, but now we do. So 68, good to know. So overall, if you're looking at buying in Sun City Festival, I think you're probably a different type of buyer than Sun City and Sun City West. Very specifically, you may consider the Grand, and you probably have more room for negotiation in the Grand because you're looking at resale homes and you are going to be factoring in some of those things. Versus here, you're probably going to be looking at a newer home that may not need systems, and maybe somebody could price it a little bit high, so you negotiate down. Oh, and 93 days on market. So like a little bit lower than, some of the communities, but kind of on par with like what we were seeing, it seems like everywhere else really in the West Valley, is if a home is hitting the market on the MLS, not new, because of course you have to build, and they're looking at like around 8 to 12 months there in Sun City Festival. But if a home is hitting the market, we're looking at, I feel like right now, around 3 to 4 months, 3 to 5 months, depending on how much new construction is around it, for it to go from on the market to sold. So pretty on par, maybe a little bit less room for negotiation and things like that. But overall, still, good market, newer homes. And this is definitely just a good comparison to see a little bit of a difference here with all of these new homes versus these existing communities that we looked at for the 3 prior communities.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing about festival is that the homes are new, and typically what we see with our buyers that a lot of buyers are okay with resale, and some of them absolutely want a new home and they want to be in a new community. And what we'll typically see is that they will say, okay, we really like this model, or, if you're looking for a smaller home, but you want new construction, there are less options, right? And so those homes tend to go faster because a lot of our 55 plus communities are already existing. As you know, Sun City is the original. And so some of them are older, but if that's what you want, you typically go in there, find a model or two. That's usually the way we see it. We go through the models and someone will say, okay, I really like this model or this model. And then, if you're looking for resale or new, you're comparing, okay, what can I get with this model resale versus, what can I get from the builder new? And so that's kind of one of the biggest differences that we see out there.
Yeah.
And if you are really looking for luxury, we tend to see a lot of clients kind of go towards festival because it is a gorgeous community. They have a lot of amenities out there for such a new community. And they have these big, beautiful homes with, not only are they new, but the designs and the trends are new and they're modern. And there is a segment of the 55 plus population that really wants that. And Del Webb does, like we said before, they do a fantastic job of knowing what the 55 plus buyers want. So
Yeah.
with that, I wanted to just kind of talk to you guys a little bit about wherever you're at in the buying process. So if you're thinking about maybe making a move in the next 3 to 6 months, there's a couple of things that we suggest for you. Definitely get your budget and financing if that's what you're going to do. Get that all lined up and squared away, because the biggest thing in any market is when that house, your home, comes on the market, we want to be able and be ready to move immediately, whether that's the first try or the third try. We just had clients, we just are getting ready to close. We had to try a couple of times and they weren't able to find what they wanted in their budget. And then the perfect home with updated systems came on the market and it was priced very, very well. And we got under contract. The house was on the market less than 12 hours when we were finally under contract because they were ready to move when that home became available. So if your time frame is shorter, we definitely recommend getting that budget and or financing figured out. And if you haven't decided on a community, you really should take the time and make the investment to come out and view communities, because it is so important, especially if you have never been out here. What we find with our clients is they will come out here and they tend to gravitate or find their community. We may
Yeah.
visit, they may be looking online and saying, looking at houses and pictures and saying, oh my gosh, we love these houses. And then they go visit the community and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And that's not a negative. It's just each person is going to find the place that feels like home for them.
Yeah.
And it is so important. And we see this time after time after time. Our clients will come out. Sometimes they're not ready to retire for a year or two. They come out, we visit communities, we look at different homes, they talk to the residents, and then they say, oh my gosh, I love X community, and that's where we want to be. And then they can really focus on, what are they looking for in their retirement home? We found that the community has the feel that they want and the amenities that are important to them. And then we can start focusing on the house and what those market trends are in that community. And how many times have we seen that happen, Braden, with our
A
clients?
lot. I don't think we've ever had a scenario where somebody's come into town and not identified after 2 to 3 days, one or two communities that they decide they want to focus in on. And also the opposite, one or two communities that they absolutely are like, take that off of my list. Don't send me houses. We had one couple that I like very vividly remember. We went into a community center area and the atmosphere was just a little bit cold and uninviting, to put it nicely. and they immediately just knew we don't need to spend any more time here. It was, it was a very awkward, uncomfortable like interaction that we had, and they were like, yeah, we just know that that's not the right fit for us. And sometimes it really does come down to that in-person experience
Yes,
versus when we went to the community that they moved into. We had multiple interactions with residents that were living there, telling them why they loved the community, different things that they were a part of, and then they realized like, well, those are the same things that we want to be a part of, and the same type, like we want to be in that friendly, inviting type of community. So every single time we've had somebody come in, usually it only takes like 2 or 3 days too. And it's, I mean, they're usually longer days. It is kind of tiring by the time that trip is over, I feel like, but they'll come in and maybe, we'll spend 2 mornings in a row going between 2 or 3 different communities. And then sometimes maybe we'll spend that third day like going back to one or two that they're like, maybe we need to see it a little bit more, or maybe we can actually look at a couple of houses to make sure that this is the right community. And by the time they're done, they know typically, okay, we're going to look at this community over here and this community, or we're going to focus on this larger community and we're just going to live here. And I think that just as much as we like to do, the virtual tours and, even show you homes virtually, if the community is not the right fit, it's going to be, or you don't know what the community is going to be a right fit, which community is going to be a right fit for you, it's going to be harder to identify the right home because, a lot of the homes really like it's not that they're all the same, but it's just that the community is more important to identify first. And then we'll find the right home within that community once you have figured it out and you know where that community is going to be a right fit. Because it's a lot of the times for these 55 plus communities, it's not just about the house, because you could buy a house like that
anyway,
anywhere. It's
yeah,
really what is the right community with the right amenities, the right activities and clubs, and the right atmosphere for
yeah.
you and your retirement and what you want to do. So it is really a cool process to go through, and we are lucky to go through that with our clients and help them to identify. And sometimes we start out thinking and they start out thinking it's going to be one community. We get there and they're like, wow, I'm really surprised, but this is actually not the right community for us. And this other one that we really didn't even know about, or maybe it's a smaller community that they weren't really considering, is the right fit. And it's really cool to be a part of that process. But I also think it makes your buying decision a lot easier because you can
Yes.
focus in versus looking at 55 plus communities across Arizona, or even across the Phoenix metro is a little bit overwhelming to say the least, because there's just so many communities here.
And I just want to add to that, that that is probably the best part of what we get to do is witness our clients find their retirement community. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And I will tell you that more importantly than the house is the community, because once you find that community and you're like, okay, this is where we're going to live, this feels like home, then you start to get excited about
Yeah.
making that move. And a lot of times our clients are selling a family home, they're downsizing, they're having to get rid of, 25, 35 years worth of memories. And that's a difficult thing sometimes. And we feel like there needs to be a reward on the other side of that for you guys. And we want you excited and anticipating your move. And more than anything, and I don't think a lot of people realize how important the community is. And that's why we stress it, because we want you to find your community. Like Brayden said, we can find the perfect home for you in that community. We were confident of that. But it is really important to find your community first and then your home.
Yeah.
And then, so if you're 12 months out, we're going to suggest to you that you kind of start to look at homes, right? Whatever your criteria is, single family, 2 bedrooms versus 3 bedrooms, maybe you guys need a den, maybe you want a home with a pool, and start kind of looking at how long those homes are on the market, the difference. And you can tell sometimes from the pictures, of the homes renovated, were they not? and kind of start to get a feel for whatever your ideal home is in the communities that you think that you want to be. But if you can invest time to come out and go through communities, we think that that's a really, really important thing to do. Because we try to convey, through video and these videos to you the feel for the community, but there's no substitute for you being here. And so it's important for you to explore different communities that maybe you didn't think about, and ask information, right? Ask us questions, because we want to give you information to help make that transition easier for you and give you as much information as possible so you can either check something on or maybe even off of your list. And just keep in mind those seasonal patterns. Sometimes we can't help when, our official retirement comes, or when we're planning on moving. A lot of times you guys are moving from somewhere with snow and you want to get out before that snow comes, and I don't blame you. So just to kind of keep those things in mind, and if you can start to watch those patterns, then you kind of know. But we can't stress enough community and being ready when that time comes.
Absolutely. So if you want more market report information for different communities than we covered in today's video, or you want ongoing market reports, I believe that we can set something up so that you can get something like once a month or once a quarter or something like that. So email us, or you can, you can call if you would prefer that. The information will be in the description and in the first pinned comment of this video. We will get that set up for you, and it's not a problem to do it. It's not a problem to set up if you're wanting to compare a couple of communities. And, part of that decision is going to be your budget. Maybe certain communities offer more in your budget than others. That's important to be looking at as you're preparing for this move. So let us know, just email us market report, and we can get that process started so that you can get that and stay informed if, the market data and the market reports are important to you as you make this big decision for which 55 plus community you are going to choose for your retirement.